Hey everyone, welcome to our masterclass series. We are so excited that you're joining us here again today. Just a brief intro into our master classes if this is your first time joining us. So we at Jill's office, our mission is to help small business owners to be able to succeed and grow their business, but in smart and effective ways so it doesn't consume their whole life. And so in these master classes, we bring experts that are actually in the trenches or doing the work and know what works and what doesn't to streamline the learning process for all of us and teach us effective strategies that actually work. So we're excited today. Please engage with us. We want your feedback as well. We know you're in the trenches as well and have great feedback to help all of us also. If you have any questions or comments, please engage with us. We'd love to hear from you.
So we're going to introduce our next guest. We're really excited. We have Sid Graef here now. And if you've ever met Sid in real life, Sid is such an awesome person. He is so knowledgeable, but also willing to share so much knowledge. He's kind, and he just makes you feel really comfortable. So I've always felt really good asking questions to Sid. Sid actually owns two businesses in Montana. Is it Missoula? Is that how we pronounce it?
Yes, in Missoula, Montana.
Both of them, he uses a lot of automations, and they are very profitable. And they're so automated that he claims to take a week off every month. And
so jealous.
I hope that if anything, you're here just for that piece to learn how Sid does this, because we all want to know. He's also the host of the 80/20 Service Business Podcast. So I'm going to post the link to that in the comments, and I'll pin it at the top. So if you want to go visit, make sure that you do, because Sid always has great stuff to share. And he's all about helping service businesses, service business owners to just work less and earn more and have more freedom. So without further ado, welcome, Sid. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Nicole. It's really good to see you. Thanks for having me on. This is going to be fun.
Sid, and just to start out here, I'd like to point out that you're in the perfect scenery for this topic today. We're here in Utah. We haven't got snow yet, but it's coming soon. I'm just staring at this beach here and want to learn, So the topic today is how to work less and earn more, correct? The 80/20 principle. So we're
yes.
excited, and good job on the scenery for this.
That's fun. Yeah, it's a green screen behind me. Actually, I'm in Santa Monica this week for some training. But anytime I travel to do a training, I try to pad it with a couple of extra days so that I can goof off or refresh or just go learn something new or be in a beautiful place. Because like you're in the mountains. I'm in Montana, so we've already had some snow. It didn't stick yet, but I'm sure 1 week from today, I will be shoveling snow down a very long driveway. So I have to soak up moments like this when I can.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I do have to tell you and thank you and compliment you both in Jill's office. What a great resource and a great thing that you're doing with the masterclass. It's so excellent to put out the type of information that is valuable, that is helpful, and that is succinct, that really can help someone, move the needle in their business. And you said it, where you want people in the small business to not be consumed by their business. But it's like on the back of the book Traction, it says, does your business have a grip on you, or do you have a grip on your business? It's like, who's in control? And so anyway, that's part of what I get to share today, and I'm really excited. You want to ask any questions first? You want to just dive in and then let people ask questions as we go, and we can jump in on those?
Yeah, let's dive right in, and then I'm sure, and the listeners as well, if you have questions as we move along, or comments or questions for Sid or anything, please comment and we will talk about it. So
yeah, cool, great. Well, again, thanks again for having me on. Our show, my show, the 80/20 Service Business, we call it the 80/20 Show, is all about how you can work less and earn more and be free. And that's kind of a kitschy, clickbaity title, but it's really true. It's kind of like Tim Ferriss, the 4-Hour Work Week. I kind of feel like I'm in that scenario right now. You mentioned earlier, I take off a week every month, but it's not like I just go on vacation for a week every month. I'm taking off a week this month to go get some training and then take a couple of refresher days. And sometimes I'll take a week off and I'll go stay with my mom and take care of her. She's older and she's lonely. So, it might be things like that, but it's the fact that I have good business and good team that they can run without me, and sometimes they prefer that. That makes it really nice. Then it leaves me freedom to do the things I want to do. So what I wanted to start with.
Hey, a quick question here, and I don't know if you'll get it later.
Oh yeah.
But how long did it get you to get to where you are in that
Oh
position?
gosh, I'll tell not the short story, not the long one, but I've been in the business for 25 years. So the first 18 years it was basically me in a bucket and a helper and grind. I mean, I'm not afraid of hard work and I love to hustle. I didn't really know how to run a business, but I was making more than a wage earner. I wasn't working for minimum wage or working for somebody else. And I was really happy with that. And sometimes that's a good place to be. If somebody wants to be a solo operator and just work hard and make a good income, that's fine. But when I decided to change it from owning a job to owning a business, the transformation to get where it's fairly automated and we actually had systems in place was running was about 3 years. And people could do it a lot quicker. Sometimes I'm not the fastest learner, so I kind of bumped up against things that should be simple and thought, oh, I need to reinvent the wheel, blah blah blah, which is not a great game plan actually.
Even 3 years though, I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It actually stemmed from, the first time I went to a huge convention was in Washington, D.C., and it was 3 years ago, 4 conventions ago. And Howard Partridge was the keynote speaker. And he talked about, he said, his business, his carpet cleaning business in Houston was doing about $3.5 million a year. He said it's completely turnkey. He lives in a different state from his business. And I was like, how can this be possible? And so there I set a goal of like 2 years from now, I'm going to have a turnkey business. So it took 3 and there's still some room, there's still a ways to go, but we're probably 90% there. And it's remarkable how, ungluing yourself from your business can generate freedom for your business to grow even more. So that's the background story. So with that, I wanted to dive in just a little bit. Let me see if I can, we talked about technology earlier. I do have a pretty short slide share. Can I share my screen?
Oh yes, please do.
Oh,
and just want to shout out Melissa Brinkley's on. Hey Melissa, we love Melissa. Do you know Melissa Brinkley? Yeah, she's awesome.
That's cool. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. I think this is the beginning.
Looks like it.
The 80-20 show is all about, what we're going to do today is learn about applying the 80-20 principle to your business so you can work less and earn more. Sometimes I title the same presentation, How to Be Impossibly Productive.
Oh, I love that.
And I'm going to see if I can learn how to, here we go. So the 80-20 principle, if you're not really familiar with it, is just, it states that about 80% of your results come from roughly 20% of your efforts or inputs. And so with that being the case, we'll ask the question, where should you focus? If most of the things that you're doing are not producing results, only a few things are, you need to focus on the things that are moving the needle, the things that really have an impact. So if you can put your attention there and get rid of the other 80%, then suddenly you become more productive and you're using a lot less time to do so. Now I mentioned before we started, like if you're in the position where you're a solo operator, you like I was when I started, you just love cleaning windows and you get paid pretty well to do it, then it's not about building $1 million business or $5 million business. A lot of people talk about that, which is fine. But if it's just you, I mean, the way you can apply the 80-20 principle is apply grow your technical skills, become the fastest, most productive, best cleaner you can, and then offload everything that you don't enjoy doing. For example, get a support system. If I were doing it by myself, I would just hire an office person that handles the phone and handles invoicing and handles those, scheduling. And I could just go clean. I can put on my headphones and just go make, $100 an hour or whatever it is and pay somebody to handle the office part. But if you want to grow, if you're looking to grow and accelerate your business, this is where it gets to be a lot of fun. So we're going to jump in. So what I've got is, I probably just skipped a few things. If you're trying to develop,
you're focusing on the 80% of your talk, right? Or the 20%?
I am. I really do that. And I try to practice what I preach. So let's just get to the juice.
Let's just get to the 5 minutes of takeaway.
The 3 main things that need to happen if you want to grow, and it doesn't matter what stage of growth you're at, but number 1, you've got to get great at delegating. And that means, for a lot of guys that start their own and start small and work their way up and bootstrap and scrap, they're like, you have this mindset that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself, or you have to do everything yourself, because somehow you believe that because you started your own business, nobody else can do anything that you're doing, which is a fallacy at best. So to get great at delegating, I like to tell people that your dreams are too big for you to reach alone. So if you're not delegating, if it's just you are the bottleneck to your business. You can never grow beyond your capacity. And if you have big dreams, forget about it. So my rule of thumb is to delegate anything that I don't like doing, and anything that I'm not great at, or anything that is repetitive. So if it can be broken down into a system, I can delegate that. But
I like that you broke it down like that, because I have that question, how do you know what you can delegate? And I like that it's that checklist. Okay, if this is repetitive and someone else can do it, or if I'm not great at it, then yeah, delegate it. That's a really clear, easy way to say yes, no. Should I delegate this?
And if you're a condo fan, to me, it's just delegate anything that does not bring you joy. None of those things.
I like that. I like that.
That's so big. That's so big. The challenge with me on that is that I really love cleaning windows. I mean, to me, it's like, it's zen. It's like, you're just out there and you're doing something else in your mind and just enjoying yourself. But that's a task that's repetitive. So I delegate that. I mean, that's just training employees. But let's talk about how to delegate, because here's the challenge. A lot of people say, I'm going to delegate that. But what they really do is they abdicate. They just throw it away to somebody. They give up their power, and they say, I need you to, here would be an example. It's a dumb example. You go, I have Melissa's my office manager. Melissa, find me some new tires. Buy new tires. She could go, okay. What's she going to do? She doesn't know what the task is. I mean, it's like buy new tires. There's no definition. There's no anything on that. And then I come back later and she bought tires for a lawnmower and I needed them for a pickup truck, and I'm all bent out of shape. Why? Because I didn't really delegate. I just threw it at her and said, make this happen, but didn't give her any way to make it happen. So there are 3 levels of delegation. One is the easiest. It's tasks. And that's simple. You just spell it out, make a checklist. Oop, here's a task. Please do this. Get back to me when it's done. Delegating projects is more fun, because that's where the projects is just a group of tasks. And then the best or the highest level of delegation is delegating an outcome. And that is really where you say, get some new tires for that truck, and it just happens. Or you go, we're climbing to the top of this mountain. I need you to lead the team up there, and you don't have to spell out how to do that. But that comes a little bit later. You have to develop the system, and you have to develop the trust and the traction and the thinking tools with the people that you delegate to. So let's look at these a little bit more closely. In order to effectively delegate, the number one thing you have to do for whoever you're delegating to, whether it's a task or a project or an outcome, is you have to set the vision and make it plain. You have to define what it is that needs to be done. So if I just say, get me a set of tires, that's worthless. If I said, I need a set of snow tires for the gray pickup truck, it's a 1998 Toyota, that's a little more specific. But if I just say, get me tires for the 98 Toyota, that doesn't help, because you might not get snow tires. You might get studded instead of, you see where I'm going with that. So when you define what needs to be done, then, that's just answering the questions. What is it? Why are we doing it? Why is it worth doing in the first place? When does it need to start? What's the deadline? How much time should go into it? What does success actually look like? What's the final outcome? And it's really helpful when you start delegating to other people if you can show them an example of success. Right? Show them what finished looks like, whether that's if you're training a new technician or if you're doing something in the office. A good example for that is like once a month, anything that's repetitive, I mentioned, we try to delegate. So once a month, we have to do a payroll report for the Montana State Fund, which is our workers' comp insurance. And so I can pull up a completed form and show it to my new office manager and say, this is what it looks like when it's finished. This is what needs to happen. And you get this receipt from the Montana State Fund. And they say, yes, you filed your report. Yes, you gave you paid the fee. And then all I need to do is glance at it's been done and they get their money. And then I know it's finished, it's complete. So, but without giving people parameters to understand what needs to be done, what is it, why is it, when is it, how long should it take, and then what does it look like when it's finished, then you might get varying results. That's a nice way of saying you'll think somebody screwed up, but really you screwed up by not telling them how to do it right.
You know what, Sid, I love that question too. What does success look like? That really hits me deep, because I mean, I feel like there's levels to that question. There's the, okay, you know, here's how, if it's a very, like you said with the levels, it's very task oriented. If you do A, you know, it should look like this apple. If you perform this, it should look like this. But if you take that on a deeper level, I think as a business owner, that's such a good question to be asking yourself over and over again. Because when you start a business, you have these big dreams, you have this vision, you know, I'm going to change the world by starting this company, you know. And then as you get into the drudgery of the in, day out, and all the fires you're putting out all day, and the problems that come into your business, and you're just trying to stay afloat, so you just constantly feel like you're drowning, you kind of forget a little bit why you started and what that vision of success that you had, almost like, you know, almost that child faith that, you know, I'm going to start this business, is going to change the world. Then you kind of lose that. So I think asking yourself that and then sharing that vision, you know, with the people you're delegating to, with your team and everyone, and constantly remembering, and that it might change a little bit along the way, but remembering, you know, why did you start, and what, you know, what is your end goal of success?
Yeah, that's super important. And that's why most, you know, a lot of times when you're building a business, you're doing all these things, you get in the weeds and you can't see the forest because the trees are right in front of you, which is kind of a great foreshadowing of item number 3 that we'll get to after we learn to delegate. The next one is because you've got to keep your vision clear. A sidebar here on like things you can delegate. One of my rules is, if, like you said, you're putting out fires, if something breaks and there's a fire, first I look at me. I go, did I cause this by not communicating clearly or effectively or empowering somebody? And try to, like, what's the problem? How did it happen? How can we prevent it? And then I write a system or a procedure to make sure that doesn't happen again. Like, and often that's just changing something that already exists that wasn't clear enough. So that helps us with delegating more properly or better in the future. Like, I hate to put the same fire out twice. It's just, that's so frustrating. That's like ground. So the next part of delegating effectively is making sure the person you delegate to has the resources. I remember sending one of my guys, I'm like, hey, go fill the vans up with gas. You know, like, I'm busy working on this advertisement or something, and I need you to go fill all 3 vans. And he's great. 20 minutes later, he comes back from the gas station. He's like, dude, I need a credit card. And I'm like, oh, what a waste of time to give somebody a job to do and not empower them to do that. So a lot of times the resources, making sure, you know, if it's your office team or your support staff, make sure that they have access to all your passwords or the keys to the building or the addresses of where they're supposed to go, those kind of things, so that they have what they need to get into the project. And then empower them, make sure they've got, you know, a method of payment or an assistant or a team to work with. A lot of this is for your leadership team. Access to instruction, or I had assistants in there twice. Apparently it's very important. And then make sure you give them the authority to do the thing. Like sometimes I'll have our office manager do things for our insurance company, not the state fund, but call my insurance or get a new quote or whatever. And it's like, my gal can't just go change our insurance. The insurance company needs my approval or authority for her to do that. So you got to make sure that you give a person, if you want them to do something for you, give them everything that they need to get it done. And a great one is, the last thing down here is guidelines, especially for decision making, and this comes more when you're delegating a project or an outcome. Here's a good example. I got a call today from a Vox from my office manager. She said, hey, we need to talk to Sam Schmidt. We did a carpet. She's not happy. I'm not sure what to do. And first thing I thought was, why are you telling me this? Tell Zane, because he's our production manager. So I messaged her back and I said, just put Zane on it. But I didn't have to tell Zane anything, because he knows that, number one, that we'll do work until somebody is completely satisfied, or we're just not going to charge them. We'll refund their money. And then if we still can't get it done, then we will actually pay another company to come and do the work so that the customer will be happy. So we have this framework of decision making already put in place. So I didn't have to explain to Zane what to tell Sam about her carpets. I just said, just send that to Zane. So those are real important things. If you teach somebody how to think and have a framework for that, there's just a lot of questions that you never have to answer. So the next thing in delegating is what we talked about earlier, is like setting what does finished look like? And that is giving someone the specs of the project, or, you know, for me, a lot of times, you know, it's the specs, the sign-offs, reporting back. Where do you put it after it's done? Do we store it, distribute it, schedule it? whatever. An example of that would just be, for us, we have a rule that said his job is not finished until you report back. So even though it may be done, if I don't know it's done and I don't see the sign off, then it's not done. So we just set those frameworks so that someone can see it all the way through. And that's just good communication. It just eliminates frustration and things like that. Ready for number 2?
Ready. I'm going to put in a quick question here. So our Facebook listeners, comment here something that you wish you could delegate, but you haven't done yet, but you feel like your life would be so much easier if you could delegate that. Love to read what your thoughts are on that.
How about child raising?
Yeah, there you go. At least
There's
there's
been a couple of times,
right?
Yeah. Oh, good. That's a good question. Okay. Now, the next thing is, if you're going to delegate, who are you going to delegate to? You got to have somebody on your team. You got to have support staff. You got to something like that. So my number 2 thing to becoming impossibly productive is to hire great people. Now I can see you 2 ladies there like laughing and wiggling around. I was going to say earlier to Michelle and Nicole, you look like superheroes without your costume on.
Well, we're laughing because I'm looking at myself on the side, like, why am I looking to the side? Because I'm watching the monitor for comments.
Well, you look like the dynamic duo. It's like, I don't know who's Batman and who's Robin, but you guys work together really well. So if you're going to delegate, if you're going to not do everything yourself, you got to have somebody to do it. In this case, we're just going to talk about hiring great people, and that's a big challenge for a lot of small companies. And most of it, honestly, is just limited thinking. You think, oh, nobody can do it the way I do it, or nobody can do it as good as I do it, or I'm an expert and I don't have time to train somebody. Or I'll hear people say, oh, I'd hire a helper, but they're just going to slow me down. I'm like, well, that's true at the beginning, because you didn't start at the top of your game. You had to grow to get there. So if you're having a hard time hiring great people, you need to examine yourself first. It's probably you, not somebody else. And I hear it all the time. People say, oh God, good help is hard to find, or millennials stink, or what, it's like whatever excuse. It's really not true. If you consider yourself to be a good person, then you have absolute proof that there are good people in this world, and there are people that know how to work hard. So it's your job to find them. So the 2 key parts of that is, number 1 is you got to define what the job is. It's like, I mentioned it, I sort of referred to it earlier where I said, write the vision and make it plain. That's actually a scripture from Habakkuk. I know this isn't Bible class, but nobody reads Habakkuk, right? It says, write the vision and make it plain so those that read it can run with it. Now that's the loose Sid Graef transliteration. But first you got to define the job so somebody knows what it is that's expected, and you need to know what you're expecting. You don't want to just say, I need to hire somebody to do everything for me. That's a little too vague, and you're going to get 0 results with that. And then, but after you define what the job is, what the position is, and that's just having a good job description. Next, you need to define the type of person that fits in this position, okay? Because it may or may not be somebody that's very entrepreneurial. I mean, if you hire somebody that's really high on the entrepreneurial scale, they may not last long because they're going to, they want more. But you define the type of person, the character traits that you need, that you have to have, and what you're willing to work with, so that you can, when you do bring somebody in, you set them up for success, and they serve you well, and you're able to support them and help them grow as well. Now this is
I heard a quote one that's always stuck with me, is like, hire character, train talent. Which you need a little bit of both, but at the end of the day, if you can find the right person, like you're saying, and you can define and they meet the characteristics, you can always train them.
Yes.
It's hard to train
because honestly, skills are pretty easy. I mean, somebody else has already learned the skill that you want somebody to have, so it's not that hard. I mean, I go, if I learned how to do, clean a window or make a phone call or, go and sell, then probably anybody can do that. It's not a difficult skill. But if you've got the right character, it's like if you're hiring somebody for customer service, don't hire somebody that's generally tends to be gruff or grumpy, because some people, that's just their attitude. And I've got a very good friend, and he comes across as the biggest jerk, but he's the most honest guy I know. He'll just tell you exactly what he's thinking. He's called our office before. We're good friends, but we clean his gutters and windows. And he called our office one time, and he's like, hey, damn it, I got to tell you, these guys left a mess all over my deck. And my office gal was so like put off by it. She just said, well, I'm going to take a message and let Sid call you. So I saw the name and I'm like, oh, it's Tim. So I called him up and I said, what's up? He said, you know, he's like, they left a mess all over my grill. And I said, how big of a mess? He said, I don't know, it's probably 5 leaves. I'm like, Tim, why are you even calling? And then he started laughing. He said, well, I know you want things done right, and so do I. So, but then he immediately went to, you know, how are your kids? How are things going? He's really a genuine and nice guy, but I would never have him in a customer service position because he would destroy the business. Now, it just happens that Tim is a trial attorney, and he is a bulldog, and he is so good at it. So right person, right fit. So if you're looking for customer service, hire somebody that's already naturally cheerful. I mean, I recruit like that all the time. I go through, there's a gal I'm working on right now that works at the Bridge Pizza in Missoula. And every time I go through the drive-thru and you get pizza by slice or you can order and pick up the window, she makes me feel like I'm the only person in the world. Like, she's so thankful that, like, oh my God, you came by to get a pizza from us? We're so happy. And like, that's who I want working for me, to handle answering the phone and doing stuff. So anyway, define the job, define the person.
Joke about that with because we're constantly hiring, and so whenever
Oh, yeah.
we're in the drive-thru or other places and we see someone good or they have a great voice, we're like, hey, come to us.
Oh yeah. Cool. And so I do want to say that the topic of hiring great people is really, I mean, Brian Haggerty has a great class on that. I think it's called How to Hire Rockstar Players or something like that. But it's hours and hours. So this is a big topic. And please understand, I'm just glossing over the top of it, but I did set up a resource that could be helpful for everybody. But the main thing about hiring great people is you have to change the way you think. You have to go from good help is hard to find to great people love working for my company. Yeah, and it's simple as that. Like, if you really want great people to work for you, you have to be the kind of person and have the kind of company that great people want to work there. And like, you can't have hire somebody and say your job is to run the office and be organized, and everything's a pigsty, because a high quality person won't put up with that. They don't want to be in a pigsty. They want to work in an environment that motivates them, uplifts them, that helps them focus. It's like when this is such a goofy thing, but years ago, like, we didn't pay that much attention to keeping our vans clean or well maintained. And I call it the duct tape years. Like, anything go wrong, we just duct tape it together. Like, okay, this will work until we can get it fixed. And nothing got fixed. It was just duct tape, jerry rig, baling wire. And then I realized one day, I was like, man, my guys are cutting corners. Why is that? Well, it's because I set an environment where the right thing to do was cut a corner and fix it with duct tape instead of actually replacing it with a new item or getting it repaired correctly so that, they had the right tools to work with. And so it's just almost everything that I teach is literally just a mental shift. It's going, instead of going, good help is hard to find, go, great people love working for our company. You know why? Because we're a great company to work for. We keep it clean. We run on time. We keep our word. It's a big deal for me personally. And we teach this in our orientation, like, how important it is to you to work for a company that you're proud to work for. Like, could you, Michelle Nicole, could you imagine work for a company where that the owner, the upper level management, like, they're trying to short everybody. They're trying to steal from all the customers. They're just trying to work them over. I mean, you go home every day feeling like you need to take a shower, and it's not going to last, right?
Yeah, you got to have your heart's got to be in it to do a good job, especially if you're trying to find employees that you train to trust so that you can leave for a week. You've got to trust they're going to think like you and make the decisions you would make.
Yeah. So a lot of it is just the environment that you set up. And that's, there's a great book by Darren Hardy. He just published it recently. It's called Willpower Doesn't Work. But the basic premise of the book is that it's not willpower and like you have to force your will on the world to get something done, like whether it's weight loss or exercise or one of those. It's just you set up an environment that requires you to behave in a certain way. So like one good example is, like, if you want to go to the gym, you have your gym shoes right by the door and you have your workout gear ready to go. So when you get out of bed, you just put it on and you're already there, and you have a partner that's going to meet you there. I'm sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but setting an environment that supports the result that you want is probably the biggest part of hiring great people. Okay.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
I did stick a link on here that anybody can go to, the bit.ly/80/20 hire sheet. And that's an overview of a system that we use for hiring and screening. Because here's the short story. Maybe 8 years ago, I had to hire 5 people all at once, and that was a little bit out of my skill set. But I put up an ad, and I got like a zillion resumes. Oh my God! I had 54 resumes, and I don't know how many applicants. And I'm on the phone calling every single person. I'm calling. Well, I did something that I don't usually do. I tracked how much time I spent hiring those 5 people. I found out that the end of 10-day period, and I did hire them, I spent 29 hours going through the screening and hiring process. And I was furious because like I needed help. I didn't need more work to do. And it burned, almost a week's worth of work for me just following this. So we set up a process where it's almost automated. Now that the process is set up, everything from posting the ad to screening responses to getting high quality people to apply to doing the final interview, it takes about 2.5 hours to do a hiring run. And what a relief. So that's what I have on that little cheat sheet that I put down there. So rather than spending 5 hours going over that, let's go to the next slide. Boop. Number 3, I alluded to this earlier, and you talked about getting in the weeds and being like, you get so busy stomping out fires and doing all this stuff that you forget why you got in business in the first place. And that, as far as setting the vision and keeping that thing, and in my opinion, this is probably the most important thing you do. And this is where I get a little pushback from people on the whole 80/20 thing. Like, one of the most important things you do to become more effective and to get more done is take time off. So is get refreshed. So I put in here, you're like a Tesla. If you've got a high performance automobile like a Tesla, it only performs at its best when it's got a full charge. So you got to put it on the charger, leave it alone overnight, and get a 100% charge. And then when you pull out of the driveway, you go from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds or whatever it is. And they're ridiculously fast. They've got all that firepower and that torque, and they're ready to go. And that's most entrepreneurs. You've got passion, and you just want to make a difference. And you're jonesing to go. But if you're busy working 70-hour work weeks, you're completely ineffective. I mean, sometimes the ox is in the ditch. You have to get out, you got to get it done, whatever it is. But usually the more you work, the less effective you become. And so it would be far better for you to just stop instead of trying to grind it out, and just reschedule the work, take a day off, get a good night's rest, and start the next day. When you are fresh and rested, and you're hydrated, and you've been eating good food, you get a workout or whatever, it's like, bam, your mind is firing. You're just ready to get things done. And when you're in a state of mind like that, you can, I like to say, 1 hour of clarity is worth a month of grind. You can just get so much done, or you can set things in motion, or you can clearly define what it is that you want in a way that you cannot do when you're exhausted. So a big challenge that I see for small business guys and gals is that you just work too much. You work too much. And so honestly, that's why I take off a week every month. And when I first started doing that, I almost felt guilty about, I did feel guilty about it. I felt guilty. Things done at home, or seeing my mom, or going on vacation, or just walking on the beach for, a day, which is what I'll be doing as soon as we get off this call. Man, I'm electrified. I have better ideas. I get I'm ready to produce, to focus, to get things done. So that's my biggest advice, is take some time off. Okay. And
So
I say that.
Question here there. Okay, so when it comes, so that makes complete 100% sense. And I think especially as a business owner, not only the time you're putting in each week, as you're saying, I always laugh, entrepreneurs are the only people crazy enough to work 80 hours for themselves to avoid working 40 hours for someone else, right?
Right.
So I mean, being able to, take that physical time, but then also the emotional and just the mental, all the stress and everything that you're carrying just inside of you, to be able to, take that time just for mindfulness and then I guess, to get back grounded. So
Yeah.
that makes 100% sense. when it comes to your employees, how do you be sensitive to that, to not overwork them, to make sure they're at a good level? What kind of
That's a great question. And I'll tell you what we did, because we struggle with that, because I mean, I expect a lot out of our team, and we try to schedule heavy because we have like we have a down season. So we try to get the harvest in while it's available. And we did an experiment this year. And the experiment was this: we used to work, 5 days, and maybe everybody worked 40, 50 hours, and they do good work. But one of the things in Montana, the summers are short, the beautiful weather is short, and everybody loves to go do things. So we shifted and we said, hey, we're going to go to a 4-hour work week. We're going to work 4 10-hour days. You're going to work hard, but you get 3 full days off, and that gives you time to go, like, you've got time now to go to Glacier National Park and camp for 2 nights and come back. Where before, if you leave on Saturday, you're back on Sunday, you spend most of your time setting up. And at first, my team was like, what? I got 10-hour days, man. But after we did it for 2 weeks, it's like I'm friends with most of my people, and I see the stuff that they're posting on Facebook, and they're at Holland Lake on a paddle board all weekend long. They're doing all this cool stuff, and they actually had time to unwind before coming back. And it made it, honestly, I was surprised at how much more productive our team was this year than any previous year. Part of it was training, part of it was systems and tools, but a lot of it was just the fact that they had enough time off each week to come back refreshed, or really hungover, depending. I'm just kidding. Mostly refreshed, because they got to go out and have some adventure,
right.
to get after it. Yeah. So anyway, that leads into like a deeper mindset of, like, what does it mean to be productive? What does it mean to be, it can be difficult to figure out what refreshes you, what recharges your battery, because it may not just be a day off. Usually what happens, you take a day off and you're like, it's a day off from work, but now I'm at home and I've got to paint the fence and change the oil, and you've got 20 things on your list at home. And so that's not really refreshing. So when I say take a day off, I really mean take a day off. Like, for me personally, we live in the mountains. I love to hike. There's a mountain trail not far from us, and it's remote enough. You have to take bear spray because there's wildlife, and it's adventurous. But taking that, doing something that, and I don't even take a phone with me. So if I ever get eaten by a bear, somebody's got to come looking for me.
If we don't hear from you for a while, we'll come searching.
But when I do that, there's no distraction in my pocket. I'm reaching for my pocket where my phone lives. There's no distraction. Nobody can get in touch with me. And, my family knows I'll be back in a few hours. But I could just go be with nature, whatever, if you pray, if you meditate, even if you don't, it's like being with nature and breathing deep and get good exercise. Oh my gosh, it's so renewing. It's so refreshing. Or, some people are into adventure sports. One of the things that a friend of mine shared with me a few years ago had a big impact. He's a mountain biker. So he's like, when you're screaming downhill, and like, you have to be so laser focused on the trail ahead of you, or you could break your collarbone, or you could die, or like, if you screw it up, it's going to be bad. And so it focuses your mind completely on one thing, and you wouldn't think it naturally, but that is actually refreshes your brain, because all the minutia is gone. You're not thinking about what calls do I need to return. Oh, I got to give a bid to Mrs. Murphy. Oh, we forgot to do this. I need to, that there's the swarm of gnats that's always around the mind of an entrepreneur. But those things, when you're doing something that absolutely requires your focus, it's like, I don't know, it's like taking an ice bath. I guess it's so refreshing. You come out just, your mind works so much better. So I have my little Leonardo Da Vinci quote here. He said, and this was, how many years ago? 500. Simple genius often gets more accomplished when doing less. So it's not about the volume of things that you do. It's about the quality or the importance of things that you do. One of the things that we have on our website for the 80/20 show, it's the 80/20 Service Business Podcast. God, I don't even know my own website, 80/20servicebusiness.com. There's a cheat sheet on there that it's just an instructive thing on how to go from doing $10 an hour work to $10,000 an hour work. And it's a great tool or a reference point to help a small business person go, you look at, a list of $10 an hour tasks. Those are things like changing the oil, sweeping your shop, doing the laundry. They're tasks that literally anybody could do. You could get a high school kid to come in after school to do the task. And I don't want to say menial in a derogatory way, but they're menial tasks. They're just, anybody can get it done. But you can move from there to doing the $100 an hour work, which in our field a lot of times that's cleaning a window or power washing the building, or doing things like that, or knocking on doors to get new business, or the next step up is the $1,000 an hour work. What does that look like? That could be as simple as writing your promotional emails or setting up a marketing plan that you work on it for an hour, but when you send it out into the marketplace, it brings back $1,000 more. It can work perpetually. Or the $10,000 an hour work, which is really, as a business owner, it's the work that honestly, at depending on your level of your business, that's the stuff only you can do. It's setting the vision of the company. It's helping lay out, like, these are the systems, and getting things set up so that repetitive tasks can happen without your brain. They're taken care of. So it's defining your systems, writing the protocols. Honestly, things that I don't enjoy doing, but I always enjoy it when it's done, because then that becomes like a miniature employee for me. It goes out and then the work just seems to magically get done. Why? Because it's been clearly defined and handed off. So anyway, that's a big deal toward growing your company, is just moving up the level of what's the value of your time. And what's more important, challenge for a lot of people like myself, is that I really love sweeping the shop. No, actually I don't. But I end up doing it because I walk through and I go, oh, this needs to be swept. And then instead of saying, Sterling, can you take care of this? I'll just grab the broom and start doing it myself. But I'll find myself getting pulled back down into the minutia. And as a business owner, it's not where you should be. So it's a constant, it's not a constant struggle, but it's an effort to go, I got to step here. I got to step here. One of the big challenges on that is that doing high level work is very taxing mentally. And so that's why you need to refresh. You can, you can't do, you can go out and clean windows, or, in your business, maybe on a shift. I don't know if the Jills work 8-hour shifts, but you can answer the phone for 8 hours and it might get boring. You have to go to the bathroom, or you can clean windows all day long, but you can't do high level strategic thinking all day long. You get mentally fatigued and it's not working right. So you got to, be fresh and refreshed, and you have to figure out what's most important and just hit it and get it done and step out. So.
Hey, Sid, on that point, Melissa Brinkley had a question. She said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the productivity of your team when you went to a 4-day work week? How were their collective attitudes on the team? And did you only do that during a certain season or the entire season?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you very much. We ended up doing it for the whole season. I thought it would just be when we were, at the beginning, because we did run it as an experiment. And a lot of times the way I'll sell new process or ideas to our team, I'll say, hey, we're doing a 30-day experiment. Let's just see how it goes, and we'll evaluate it when it's done. And this is one where everybody's like, we got to keep doing this. This is so good. So productivity probably, if I had to quantify it, probably went up 15%, like that. It's like we didn't put in more hours. We just had more quality and more productivity. But the best part of it was the attitude of the team, the team culture. Like, people were just mentally geared to have more fun because they had time to have more fun. So they would bring that attitude to work with them. And then we did a couple of team fun nights. Like, I sent them all out to get beer at the brewery and then go across the street and throw axes for 2 hours.
Oh, we just did that. It was so fun.
Was it fun?
As a team. Yeah,
that's because Michelle was really good at it.
Yeah, Brant and I were having a showdown, and he did show me down, but it was close a little bit.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
I think that's a great idea. I think I love that. One question I had too, as you were talking about, seeing the room needs to be swept as an example, and going to sweep it. So yeah. It sounds like, you've really mastered not, micromanaging, which is it's hard master. So when you see an employee, okay, say, you come, every time you come in the office, it's still not swept, and they're just, they aren't performing up to your vision or your standard. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, you just turn around and put it into a checklist. I mean, for us, we have a couple of checklists. Can you hear me okay? I think one of my buds just died.
Yes.
You still hear me? Okay. We have written checklists that are kind of in the manual. They're part of the training. And then we have what we call the big board, which is just a giant whiteboard. And it's, we have 2 of them in the cave, which is our warehouse called the cave. So I'll just put it on the big board, and I'll put somebody's name beside it. So I've realized if I don't specifically say, if I just go, these things need to happen, 50-50, it's going to happen. But if I put it down and I go Zane, and I put his name by something, and then I put, Sterling by somebody else, et cetera, then it has to happen. I'll usually just take a snapshot of it and vox it to them as well, so they know it's there, and then walk by it, forget to look. But the rule on that is when it's done, they have to check off and initial it. So then I know it's done. And we have had, instances where somebody will check it off and initial it, and I go look, and it like wasn't really done. So then I know exactly who to talk to. I'm like, hey, this one's done. So that's the short answer. Okay, I think this is where we go into bonus time. So the foundational keys to maximum productivity. The first one I'm going to tell you is a bonus. We didn't even talk about that. Well, we talked about it, but it wasn't one of the 1, 2, 3. And that is to shift your thinking. It's like if you could imagine a giant tanker ship, they're 3 football fields long, but the rudder is maybe the size of a garage door. And this little tiny rudder, compared to the size of the ship, steers the entire ship as it travels thousands of miles from China to the port here in Los Angeles to bring your IKEA furniture to you. But you have to, if you shift your thinking just a little bit, the simple version of that is like, going from thinking I have to do it all to go, who can do this? That's a monumental shift, because if you think you have to do everything, you can't see what really needs to happen. But if you can just change your mind to go, I used to say, I have to get this done, which was not true. The truth was, this has to get done, but it didn't really have to be me. So now it can be, as soon as I just changed what I said from I have to get this done to this has to be done, then anybody could do it, or anybody that's capable. So from I have to do it all to who can do this. And that's a light year stretch of a change once you push it down the road a ways.
That's like a huge mind shift, just from what you have under from to. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and really, it's just in your head. That's the thing that baffles me, even when I'm trying to grow and apply these things myself. I go, God, it's just a thought. And like, how can that make such a difference? But if you really believe that good help is hard to find, you will have a hell of a hard time finding good help.
Right.
You're just not gonna. And I don't want to get all woo-woo like The Secret and stuff, because some of that I agree with and some of it I don't. But like, if you believe something, and I think it was Henry Ford that said it, whether you believe you're right or if you believe it'll work or you believe it won't, you're right. It's just your attitude, because it's going to affect how hard you try. This is a really interesting sidebar, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. But there was, let me give you broad strokes, because I can't quote the study. I think it was done by Stanford. It may have been by an Ivy League school. But there's a general stereotype that Asian students are better in math than American students. And that's been a stereotype for a long time. So somebody set up a double-blind study, and they had like groups of American students and groups of Asian students, and they put them to work on, they gave them 3 math problems. The first 2 are solvable, and the third one is one of those problems that cannot be solved. And they timed how long did they work on it. And so everybody in the test that finished number 1 and finished number 2 and started working on number 3, they found that the American students on average spent 4 to 6 minutes working on the impossible problem before they quit. And that the Asian students spent 45 minutes to an hour working on it before they quit. So it wasn't really about capability, it was about tenacity. So that's I don't know where I was going.
Or maybe the Americans were just on the 80-20 rule,
Maybe that's it.
Unsolvable.
That's great. That's great. Okay. One of the things, you probably hear it too, is people love to brag about the grind. They're like, and this goes to like the Protestant work ethic, or I call it the farm boy work ethic. I grew up on a farm and ranch in West Texas, and all we did was work. I mean, that was like when you're a little kid, Grandpa said, my grandfather, we call him Grandpap, he's like, Sonny Bud, make a hand. And that was just West Texas speak for, you have to work hard. And our bragging rights were related to how many hours we worked in a week, even as a 7-year-old. I mean, literally, I got a garden hoe and was dropped off in a cotton patch with my older cousins. They were just trying to give me something to do to stay busy, but it was just ingrained in me that the harder you work and the longer we work, the better of a person you work. So if your self-worth is tied to how many hours you work, you have a real hard time making that shift. But if you're bragging about the grind, like I work 70 hours, 80 hours, blah, 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 like it becomes really difficult to refresh and recharge. because you feel guilty or you feel like you're a less valuable person for working less. But it is a mental shift to go, here's the thing. A lot of small business owners, when you start the entrepreneur, right, you're used to being paid by the hour. And so you have a mind track of money is linear, like income based on hours worked. And so everybody rates their productions like, I can do 25 an hour of work. I can do 50. I can do 100. I can do 120. Our teams do 150 an hour, whatever. And those are important metrics. But when you're thinking about with your own production and your own income, your own earnings, it's very limiting. But what, as an entrepreneur, you need to be focused on is the results. You live in a results economy. It's like, it doesn't matter how long it takes to clean the windows on this building across the street. I mean, if you could do it in 2 days and you got paid $2,000, that'd be good. What if you could do it in a day? Well, the owner of the building doesn't care how long that took. They just want a result. They just want it clean. So it's not about, in your work as an entrepreneur, it's not about how much time you spend, but how productive you are. And so that's why it's so incredibly important to get refreshed, to sharpen your saw, to get new ideas, but also just to be, to recharge that Tesla battery, because you're like a high performance vehicle, and you got to have a full tank of fuel so that you can do your best work, so that you can serve your customers and your employees and your vision the best. So I think, okay, mind shift. So number one, you got to refresh. I think I've hammered that into the ground. So then delegate like a boss. You like my double play there? Like a boss, because you are the boss, and you have to get somebody else to help you carry the load, because you can't carry it all yourself. And then hire A players. We talked about that. We just skipped a stone across the surface of that one, but it's powerful, because you have to have a team that believes in your vision, and people that are capable, and people that care about your company and care about their job and care about your customers, because you have to trust them with your business, basically. And oh my God, we're done here. That's all I've got. Thank you so much for having me on. Here's my, if anybody wants to listen to the 80/20 Service Business podcast, what I do on that show is I find, it's a lot like what you ladies are doing at Jill's office. I find people that are like damn good at a certain skill, or they've built a significant business, or they've been down that road. One of the fastest ways to develop expertise is not to go out and develop expertise. It's to find somebody that's expert and shortcut it. Either get their knowledge or buy their knowledge, so that you can apply it in your business right away. So that's what we try to do for everyone with the 80/20 service business, is just show you a way to get more done working less. I think we've hammered that too. Work less, earn more, be free, go to the beach.
Hey Sid, I think the last time I met you was at the huge convention 2 years ago.
Yeah, Atlanta.
Right, and I think that we talked about that one book that we had read, Essentialism. Essentialism to me really ties in with the 80/20 rule, because I am the type of person that tries to do all the things, and for a long time was really set on, I don't need to tell everybody else what I was doing in my business before. I just could do everything and hire someone to run the register. Was basically all that I did. No one had vision, because I didn't think anyone needed to, or needed to know, or could do as good a job. And now that I look back all these years on what I could have done different, I mean, it's crazy. When we have new clients sign up, a lot of times their comment is, when they talk about other business owners that don't want to delegate, how they're just getting in their own way. They're their own problem. They're their own obstacle. They have a problem delegating. And Anthony had posted on here too, one of the things he's interested in delegating is data entry, which is a great one. It seems so simple. It needs to be done right. But I mean, sometimes you just have a hard time giving that little piece up, but it takes up so much of your time doing it little increments all day long, just like phone calls.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's so true. It's like, I mean, I know, well, do you have children? Nicole, you have children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Michelle. Yeah, you have kids. And when you're teaching them to make their own bed, that's like, to me, that's so frustrating.
I still haven't mastered that.
Oh my God. But you have to. You
Right.
have to teach them how. And it takes so long. And you automatically you're going to go, God, I'll just get out of here. I'll do it myself. Because it takes you 30 seconds. It takes them a day, and they still don't do it right. But the time that you save by teaching them to do it correctly, then they do it on their own. but also the skill that they learn and they're able to develop some on their own. So was something like data entry a great way to handle, like, I don't like writing down step by step by step, but next time you're doing data entry or you're doing a task that you know, if it's computer based, there's a free download called Jing, Jing. I think it's jing.com, but it's just a screencast recorder. You can record what you do on your screen. It only gives you 5 minutes, so you have to be succinct, but go in, do the task and record it. And then you can talk about it as you go. And then you just give somebody else that recording and go, here, do that. And that's a great way where you can, like, if you go, well, I don't know how to hire, I've got to find a high school kid to come in. No, you can go to Upwork, or you can, find a VA that'll work for 5 or 10 an hour. And your data entry doesn't have to be done in your office. It can be done anywhere on the planet.
Right.
So that's a great way to offload tasks. But we didn't get into this, and it's a completely different topic, but you can hire employees, or you can delegate by outsourcing. And that doesn't necessarily mean, sending jobs offshore. You can outsource here. Your entire business is a perfect example of that. Jill's office, like, and I sometimes I feel like, just banging I feel like, shouting in the wilderness. Who's listening? Like, I tell people, like, just answer your phone. If you can't pick it up, let Jill's office answer, because, like, you want a live answer when somebody's calling, because you spend all this time and effort to get your phone to ring. Don't flush it down the toilet. Answer the phone. So, I mean, it's an easy fix. So there are companies. Jill's office is a great one. There are other companies that do the kind of tasks that you find boring, annoying, whatever. It's not boring to you, but you only do it inadequately. Like, just hire somebody that's expert at it, and you'll get a better result. So don't get me started again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sid. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you taking some time of your time off and sharing it with us. And everyone, please go check out Sid's podcast. I've listened to them before. They're phenomenal. So lots of more good stuff on there. So thank you.
Good. Ladies, thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on. It's quite an honor. So thank you. And keep doing such a great job, because, people need to learn the things that will move them forward. And you guys are doing a really good job with the Masterclass series. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right. You have a great day, Sid. Take care.
All right. See you later.